Today we are going to dye a geode style shirt with ice dye. So I'm using artificial sinew, which is thick waxy thread. This is just a scrap piece of PVC that I use to pull it tight on the shirt. And this shirt is a cotton shirt with 5% spandex, I think, when you're tying it. So I started tying this. I have 4 little bundles here, and then I'm gonna finish the rest of the shirt, which might require 4 more. And then I'm gonna go ice dye it downstairs and show you how that whole process goes. So my strategy when I'm geode tying a shirt is I want to have a front tie, a back tie, and shoulder ties. Because then it's like really balanced on the top and front and back. And then everything below that, it's not that it doesn't matter, but if you get the top and the front and the back good, like I feel like the shirt's a success. So I grab those areas first, and then also when I'm applying the ice and the dye, I'm planning to have the ice and the dye sit on those very first 4 ties. I'm gonna take my spool here and drop it on the floor, and it's just gonna roll around down there while I am pulling more up, and that's fine. So my current strategy has been to do like 2 main ties per bunch here, but it looks like when I first started this, I was doing like 1 tie and then another really little tie. Now this is gonna look really nice and organic to have these 2 ties right next to each other, and it's really messy, so that's what I'm going for. All right, got my bunch here, and I'm not knotting this or cutting it between ties. I'm just doing a couple wraps, 1, 2, 3, and then just a short little tightening right there to get it to kind of start anchoring. You feel it start to click and lock down when it's getting tight enough. So I'm gonna do some more. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I got a good base there. Now I'm gonna go to the top section here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I tightened it a little bit, but I don't want to hurt my fingers, so I just tighten it a tiny bit with my fingers and then use this to pull the rest of it really tight to get those nice, crisp, defined lines. Careful you don't pull too tight, because then it breaks, and that's really frustrating. I think you can see in here, it started to fray a little bit, so I got close to breaking it. On these up here, it looks like I got real crazy with it. I got like 2 ties per section here. I don't think I'm gonna do that on the lower ones because I'm trying to save time and not be in the weeds about it. All right, I got my bundle all grabbed there. Take my sinew and 1, 2, 3, 4. That feels right. Sometimes I think it works better to get crisp lines if you do like 3 wraps, pull it tight, and then 3 more wraps instead of trying to do all of the wraps and then pull them all tight at the same time. So I don't think they like lock down as cleanly. Sometimes it just looks like a knotted mess on there. Okay, just trying to make it interesting looking. It will be interesting to see the difference in how the lines look on the first ones that I tied like a year ago and these that I'm tying today, because I haven't tied a geode style shirt in a long time. This might have been the last one that I was in progress with. I'm gonna move on to another section here. Try to make it messy. I'm underneath the armpit area. When you're pulling it tight, make sure you're not pulling towards your face or your body. If it breaks, you don't want to smack yourself. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is my normal strategy, pulling. So when it breaks, it's not gonna hit my face. Do another little nuance, because there's lots of little crinklies right here. Let's see it. Lots of little crinklies here. So I could leave it like this, but I am going to do another like detail tie here just above, but I'm like anchoring on the first tie line. So it's at an angle. Okay, then I'm gonna tighten that down. And I think that will look really interesting. Okay, here's the deal on this. There is some area here that's not fully tied up. I think I'm gonna leave it like that. Let's see how it looks. So I'm gonna be done tying this one. It has a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 bunches that I tied. Okay, we're back down in the dye room. So I've got my cotton shirt and I'm gonna pre-soak this in soda ash. So this is my bin, and can we hear that? The bubbles are coming up. I'm just gonna let this soak here for a little bit, just long enough for the bubbles to stop coming up. And then I will spin this out in the spin dryer so that it's damp. Okay, once I'm happy with how long this has soaked, I will bring it over to the spin dryer. I'm gonna hand wring out most of the water, soda ash water, and then I'm gonna stick it in the spin dryer. But okay, the annoying thing about the spin dryer is if you just put one lumpy thing in there, it's gonna be off balance. So I usually stick another shirt in on the opposite side just to balance it out. And that makes that pretty easy. There we go. It's a little wobbly, but it does the job. All right, it'll drain for a little while, but once it's done draining, you can take this soda ash water that's down here and put it back into your bin or your bucket, wherever you're keeping your soda ash. And then you get to reuse some. How nice is that? So I'm gonna be setting up this ice dye in a basket so that it can drain off and not be sitting in the muck. And we're gonna arrange it so that the 4 original first ties from the front, back, shoulder are going up because I want those to get the best color. The ties at the top usually look the best. To hold the basket up out of the muck, I'm gonna use some Mega Blocks here. See it? We're gonna use the Mega Blocks to hold the basket up out of the muck. Perfect. All right, so now I'm gonna put a bunch of ice on there. Let me see here. I'm trying to decide if any of this dye should go directly on the shirt or just all above the ice. What do you think? Which way do you like to do it? Because I usually like to do a dark color, but today I'm only doing one color. I'm trying out Nebula in this ice dye kit. So maybe I could put a tiny bit on to start. Nebula, I could sprinkle a tiny bit on and then put the ice on and add some more. I think I'm gonna try that. Isn't this cute? Let me show you this. Look at how cute that is. All right, here is the Nebula ice dye in the new sprinkly container. Easy sprinkle container, love this. Okay, I'm just gonna sprinkle some on to start, just a little bit, and then I'm gonna put some ice on here. What I might try to do, I'm gonna try to fill in some of this space here so that I can use less ice. All right, I got my first scoop of ice here going on. Right now this looks green. That's interesting. I bet the colors will split though with time. Second batch of ice, more. I like to use a lot of ice. All right, that looks good. That's very well covered. And I am going to sprinkle on. When I'm looking close at this, I can see some blue, some red, but at first glance it looks green, so that's very interesting. This is what the example on the box looks like. This is not a geode tie. The tie definitely changes the way the color behaves sometimes, so it'll be interesting to see how the geode style will look with this. It's been about 24 hours since I set this up and the ice has melted all the way through, and I'm just going to show you what this looks like underneath, because this is very fascinating how the colors behave. Okay, the top area looks very red and the underside area has a lot of blue and green here. Blue travels farther than red when you're ice dyeing, so it'll usually end up at the bottom, but the red doesn't travel as far because it reacts faster to the cotton or to whatever the fiber is. It reacts faster and doesn't move quite as far through the fabric. So this makes for really cool splitting. That's what people are referring to when they have like ice dye combinations of colors that they love. One color moves farther than the other and you get really cool effects with it. Here it is. And I'm gonna rinse it with cold water and then gradually move to hot water because the cold water gets rid of the excess dye so that it doesn't redeposit in the areas you don't want it, like in the white lines. And then once you just get the bulk of the excess dye out with the cold water, then you use the warm and hot water to bleed out more excess dye. And once you have gotten the soda ash out with the cold water too, bleeding out the excess dye is much less likely to redeposit and react on the fibers. I'm watching to see how much dye is still bleeding off of the shirt. So there's still quite a bit of blue and red, purple color coming out. So I like to put my stopper in here and start collecting the water while I start to unwrap it. So I can just, the unwrapped part, then I'll just dunk and squish a little bit. And when you don't put ties in it, all you have to do is unwrap instead of use scissors or mess with undoing knots. And if the tie didn't fray too much, it's pretty easy to unwrap. Are we ready to see how this one turned out? Ooh, got some interesting lines right there. Excited about that. Those look nice. And then I just continue following to the next tie, and the whole shirt should pretty much look uniform in the color since I only used one color. Okay, let's see how this one is. Very nice. Here's what I love about these lines. You can see here, we've got the white line, and then we have a green section and a red section. So that's what's really nice about ice dyeing, is that usually there's concentric variations of color. Okay, I'm gonna finish rinsing this. I got all the ties off and it's looking pretty good. So I'm excited to show you. I'm gonna rinse it a little more. I'm gonna go put it in the washing machine and the dryer, and then I'll be back to show you. Okay, here's what the final shirt looks like. I really like these lines here with the interesting details. Very jagged with little gaps here. I like those little nuances. That's what the back looks like. I used a lot of ice, and I think that gave the shirt overall a very like pastel washed out appearance, a watercolor look, which I like. In some of these areas you can see it gets a lot darker, so it's very possible for this dye color to have a deeper bluish green color and a darker red, but the amount of ice that I used washed it out quite a bit. But I don't mind that because that's what creates this like shadowing effect next to the white lines. So if you want the colors to be more vibrant, there are definitely ways you can manipulate that with more dye, less ice, maybe using some additives like salt or batching longer might help with the blues and the greens. But overall, I like the color here, like the way this looks. And I do think Nebula is a solid ice dye color for Geode style.